Sorry, this is part two. Um, you were listening to this this here about the mass shooting when they were um, in New York.
Reserves.
I think that's right.
Okay, so what happens next?
So the next thing we know that happens is in July. Card travels with his reserve unit to West Point, New York for an annual training exercise. And there's a very concerning incident that takes place. They're all hanging out together at a motel, and he starts accusing them of calling him a pedophile. This is one of his paranoid delusions that comes up repeatedly. He shoves one at one point, and everyone is just freaked.
Start calling him a pedophile. In the first part at the end, you heard the thoughts, the voices in his head, which is via V2K, and those voices start calling him a pedophile. Now with me, they do these manipulations and they do these mind games, right? They try to confuse you. That's why they like, oh, but if you make you think this way, then this is that. And if you can think this way, then this way of thinking can also be done because of this. And like they try to confuse you into accepting this manipulation. Listen, I understand at this point. They can create even logic and rationality. They can make you think the most extreme thoughts and less extreme. Some of the extreme thoughts, most of the extreme thoughts are child-related, pedophilia-related stuff. It's disgusting. Then it becomes these levels. There's some like less extreme making you think of this person in this kind of degrading way. You know, it's like okay. Then they make you think, oh, but you see, if this was that, you know, for example, this thing with these people going for the drugs and while they're in the state of like drug whatever, then something and they're like, oh, you see, you could do that too. You make me imagine this thing. Like you're just making me imagine this stupidity. But like, oh, but remember when Courtney, Britney, and remember that time there? Just remember it. So like, okay, you're just trying to find ways to make me accept these ways of thinking in this way. But it's whatever, you know. It's like you make me think of more extreme, and then they go to the most extreme. You see, then that means that when we make you experience this with kids, it's you because we're making you think the way you think when you were a child. It is disturbing, but this is the kind of mind games. It's the type of games they play. And then with me, you know, they try to present themselves. I'm like, oh my gosh, as if like you don't look shady. Then they have these tactics, right, of mind games, of trying to find ways to get you to accept these ways, of thinking anything else, but they are these manipulations are what they are. Manipulations, altering your mind. Listen to these tactics of mind games.
Ultimately controlling the enemy. The book, The Art of War, is an excellent short read, and it's to make your enemy believe you are near when you are far. It's to believe you are weak when you are strong. It's to believe you are, unorganized when you're very smart and strategic. And so they play all these games along with the torture scripts right out of the books on the target. And they make them believe that they're...
So they do these mind games. With me, the mind games are this. We are these people who are just mining your brain. And we saw these ways of thinking. And based on this is what you're experiencing today because we're mining. We're not manipulating. This is retardations. And you have these validations. And so the games are different. Some of the games like make you feel like this guy said, these people are just the next door neighbors. Sometimes it's not even the next door neighbor. It could be the people, not even in this, like, sometimes it feels like they're in the hallways. I check, there's nobody in the hallways. Or it sounds like somebody just opened the door here, but it's not here. It's somewhere else. But sometimes there's actually somebody here who makes noises. So they have this game, this back and forth, to confuse you. It's like, now we validate, do this and that. When the reality is they are manipulating your brain in this degrading way for the purpose of this here. Just like he said earlier, the future of these future wars is going to be about cognitive warfare, the way they can degrade somebody. So we are just test subject for that. How can we really make this person accept this, identify with these things? On top of that, it's going to help us manipulate this person even more. We just truly test subjects to these kind of things.
You might guess that this person developed delusional disorder. This is a paranoid schizophrenia. But first of all, nobody develops paranoid schizophrenia in the 50s, in their 50s. This is, if you haven't developed it by 30, it's not. Then this technology exists. These nefarious programs exist. And it's hard to imagine for a person that why would you do something like this? But if you think about the new type of warfare,
Cognitive warfare.
Exactly, it's a cognitive warfare. You don't have to kill people that you are fighting against. You can just degrade their brain. You can
you alter their minds.
Yeah, alter their minds,
personalities.
And it's like Chinese torture. I mean, okay, so
They alter the mind and implant personality, and then try to make themselves believe, or make the target believe this is anything but this massive government that's been using human subjects as test subjects to do some of the most terrible things. Listen to these tactics of like making you believe that this is next door neighbors.
Carries
Listen to
the
this.
B2K. So they'll say we're the Russian government, we're the Chinese government, we're evil aliens, we're Satan's, satanic ritual abuse. And I've heard all the stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. The trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government could do this.
I'm hearing some childlike trash. Like, I'm 14 years old. I know who's running this program and what they've done. And they do these systematic things to us target individuals. And we have very little we can do. Because we are just human civilians who can do nothing about this Department of Defense program that is utilizing some of the most sophisticated technology, unlimited amount of resources. And so we just endure, but do not identify. But in fact, these entities have been working on this technology for decades. Listen to this. Listen to how old these things has been going for. Decades. Since the 60s.
In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day.
Alter the mind.
The mind can be altered.
Since the 60s, they've been looking for ways of altering the mind using electromagnetic radiations. This is DARPA. Oh, by the way, there's something. Let me show you what something is going on in DARPA and the DoD. As I'm saying that, there's people, perps, contracted to play these mind games to confuse you. Because this is what's going on in the DoD. There's some things that they say not matter to you when you were a kid. Listen to what's actually going on.
Secrets, potentially making this. The Defense Department releasing brand new details into an investigation involving child pornography and dozens of its workers and contractors, some with top-level security clearance. Not only are these very serious accusations, but investigators say some of the people involved were handling the nation's most sensitive secrets, potentially making this a matter of national security. Chief Fox Report correspondent Jonathan Hunt with the news. Appalling story, Jonathan. Do we know more about these people and their security clearances?
Well, we don't know their exact job titles, John, but what we do know is that they did appear to have been working, some of them at high levels, across a range of government agencies. Take a look at this, for instance, the National Security Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, and the very secretive Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Others...
That's DARPA. Child pornography. An issue over there. You know how much of an issue it is? This is how much of an issue it is. Because I'm saying that I'm looking at the time, it's 111. You know, they like to do these mystic things. I'm okay to make this video as long as it brings reality somewhere in their faces. I don't want them to escape. So listen to this consistent issue that's been ongoing. This DOD entities that's doing these things to us.
For digital security sweeps. So how is this happening?
Well, it's happening because even though there is a certain amount of limitation on access, those who are working in the Department of Defense, clearly it appears to be thousands of individuals in the Department of Defense, are finding ways around this, specifically by using the Department of Defense IP addresses and also apparently peer-to-peer sharing within the department's network. So this study that was done on this issue, and it is pretty horrifying, Manila, to consider this. It shows that the Department of Defense ranked 19th out of almost 3,000 networks in terms of peer-to-peer sharing of child pornography. That is absolutely incredible. This bill attempts to essentially say, look,
Ranked 19th. 19th. Ranked 19th for trafficking child pornography when reviewing all networks in regard to the United States. 19th out of 2,900. Oh, and this is what's the issue really? This is the most disgusting part.
Is it fair then to the tens of thousands who are completely innocent to further allow that much more government intrusion into their digital devices or the things that they're dealing with on their computers?
well, remember that what's being talked about here is not an intrusion into someone's personal device or even their home. This is about saying Department of Defense computers are being misused to share, to spread, to access child pornography. And
this is how nasty it is. You see why they're like, no, we're not doing it. No, what we do, we're big mining. Well, this is the entities mining. Do you know how disturbing it is to see that this is who's ranking them? Listen to this.
To child pornography watchdog Pentagon issue computers may be used to view, create, or circulate such horrifying images is a shameful disgrace, and one we must fight head on, Spanberger said in a statement. According to child pornography watchdog Internet Crimes Against Children Child Online Protective Services, the Defense Department network consistently ranks in the top tier of internet service providers for trafficking child pornography. It ranked 19th of nearly 3,000 networks surveyed in 2018.
This is coming from some child protective entities. And it's been consistently ranking like that. Is there something here? At every level, you see these patterns of not only what they do to break people down, the entities coming out with these entities coming up with these technologies and ways of manipulating the brain and using human subjects as test subjects to continuously improve this technology, has had issues that is pedophilia-centric for a long time, and it's been consistently happening. And these people want you to be like, no, what we're doing is like, we're going to your brain, we map this brain, we do this and that, and want you to accept this manipulation that is used to break you down. Throughout me saying this, excuse me, let me. Throughout all this moment, as I'm putting things back in perspective, they're making the nose campaign. They're like, no, you abuse, you do this. Now, you understand that they need test samples of all sorts. Because any technology, in order to be the most efficient technology, you need different samples of all sorts of people. Actually, let this person say it better than me, right? Why do they need different samples, right? And they're sending this childlike individual who's supposed to make me believe this is her money or whatever.
It's the government, but you want a random sample. It's the government, but you want a random sample of the population in all languages, all cultures, in order for a worldwide weapon of an AI system that can interact with every human brain. For example, when you you develop a new drug. Well, you have a control group, and then you give the placebo, and then you have the actual drug.
So you understand the need that this program, this needs to be applied onto anybody, all kind of people. It needs to be men, women, and unfortunately children. Now listen to when they break down women, even men, some of the common tactics that are so disgusting. But listen to this guy.
Already being used. I mean,
if you talk to the victims, the PIs, one of the worst breakdowns, and it's pretty common. I think I can say the word simulated rape and forced orgasm.
You can say anything you want. It's the internet.
Okay. And so simulated orgasms and rape is extremely common, and especially violating for women. They complain about that torture breakdown the most.
So when they talk about no, for Britney, for Courtney, this and that, make you think like that, I'm like, first of all, I'm talking to people who literally use rape as a tool, as a systematic tool to break down women. Like, this is the things that they use for the breakdown of men and women. But listen to the women here who are targeted, who are subject of this program for the purpose of
sensations, the sensation of something going up my crotch and in and out, etc. They also often force vaginal discharges and zap my genitals at the same time. These sexual assaults are present throughout the day, every day, and anytime I am awakened at night, every night. They range from mild to extreme, but usually involve daily and nightly continuous assaults for the past 3 years.
So, as they try to vilify me about whoever they're trying to, that's real. No, I'm not real, but I'm saying like that's not the things they try to make me imagine. You gotta remember, these people vilifying you, telling me this is justice. They are trying to counter the reality that they are torturing women in sexual matters. That's so horrible. Testimonies like that, there's so many of them. They are raping women for the purpose of this technology. These women involved in that are fully aware and participant of this program, and some of them have participated in a program where this is applied to the women too. They are involved in the same program, which I'm in, where women are being tortured. These people are involved in the same torturing of women, some more than others. So these ways of thinking to try to make you believe these disturbing pedophilia things, it's just a way to just to confuse you. And by the way, I said all kind of samples that include children. Listen to what they do to children. First of all, listen to the testimony of a woman and her young child being in samples, test subjects.
Miss Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I asked Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today.
As I'm shaking my head, they are making me think the way I should accept these pedophilia things, because if they're capable of making you think this way about this random thing, about this drug thing that has nothing to do with me, but can correlate to between what happened between me, Britney, and Courtney, that means this pedophilia type of torture is the mind games to try to get you to accept this pedophilia type of tormenting is disgusting. But you heard this woman talk about her and her young child. So remember, young child and her being tortured psychologically and physically. This is a woman in the same program who's used as a test subject because what they need is samples of all sorts. That's the reality. This psyops try to make it seem like, well, no, it's our money. I hear this 14-year-old child, whatever, retard, try to make me believe it's her money, that they're picking me. And I was put in this program by people far from what they came and say a name of some men that was picking up kids as young as 13 years old, 14 years old. And now they tell me how they're gonna frame me by using this 13 retard. I was like, and you see who's talking. You'll know these people. Know people you should respect. Look at you. Try to be like, no, we avenge. We pay for pay. Listen to these horrible things they do to children, because of course, for the purpose of creating this psychology, this breakdown of the target individual, torturing a child in front of somebody who's responsible for that child. You know what he does to that person? He breaks them down, and this is the purpose of this program, so they can manipulate this person even more. Listen to this woman talking about how.
I'm currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was severity. Do when I am being more severely suffocated. I do when I am being more mark on her arm. She has also grabbed
That's the
her
7-year-old
crotch
kid.
saying, "Ow," and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister, who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "Ow." I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom.
So you hear, and there's more testimony of women, children being tortured. Women, there's a lot of it, sexual torture. I mean, there's just a lot of that. So you hear they actually abuse children. You heard the suffocation, sexual torture. You're going to hear, obviously, you heard that woman saying her and a young child being tortured psychologically and physically, damaging them. But there's more. So they do horrible things to children for that purpose. This is part of this. And so with me, because they're trying to create this game, first of all, they do this pedophilia type of torture, which they say, no, we mapped it to you as young as, well, they're saying this is mapped it to you when you were a kid around the age of this and younger. And I bring this picture all the time because it brings things to reality. I'm almost 40 years old. I'm closer to 40 than 30, okay? They're saying that what's happening to my brain, the way they're making me think, right, is because they are making me think as young as this person, right? That my brain has been manipulated, and I don't know if you could read there, this is an 8th grader, that my brain has been structured to be the brain of the age of this kid. While you heard the consistency and the pattern of what they do, they want me to think my brain is now restructured into the brain of a child that young. And it's not the pedophilia things that you keep hearing over and over and over from different levels, from what they do in the program, and interestingly enough, the issues that's been ongoing in the DOD. Oh, matter of fact, listen, let me bring that up again, just to show how disgusting it is, because this needs to be mentioned multiple times. It's a true problem, but let me bring that up again, and you hear some of the other issues in the other agencies that obviously involved in this.
Following the handbook perfectly.
2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply fired.
This is based on the BuzzFeed article calling out there was a CIA agent doing something to a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was fired for that only, not arrested. Nothing happened to him. Just let it go.
Employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers.
This is the CIA. A man was caught with child porn where the mother filmed their children.
One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments.
We're talking about CIA.
Sure, what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for sex with an undercover FBI agent. I think that you mentioned that. Posing as a child, he had his contract revoked. One CIA staffer was charged with child sexual crimes, and the employee was also under investigation for mishandling classified material. But sexual crimes involving children, says BuzzFeed, including the viewing of images of abuse, have been uncovered at other agencies that handle sensitive information. In a November 2009 report, the Department of Defense acknowledged that dozens of Pentagon staff members or contractors had such images. In 2014, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community found that 2 officials from the National Reconnaissance Office, which oversees America's spy satellites, acknowledged viewing images of child sexual abuse during polygraph examinations. This is so disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable. Is this something that is happening?
You just heard that. The amount of child porn this director of the DSS saw when reviewing the computers of the employees were unbelievable. I didn't know how unbelievable. Apparently 19 out of 2,900 ranking unbelievable. Remember what you heard before, the consistent ranking of the DoD network of child pornography trafficking. That it was top tier. That some of the most child porn circulating trafficking came from the DoD network. And this bill was supposed to stop or limit the amount of child porn created, downloaded, and trafficked using DoD network. But listen to the question of this man, because this bill is just supposed to stop people working as an employee for the DoD using the computers given by the government to download child porn. So they are going to make sure that they don't use the computers given by the governments. It doesn't mean like we're going to make sure that these people are not pedophiles. Just don't use our computers, because that is where the most of the trafficking child porn is coming from. But it's just an awkward, weird connection here.
Evil.
Ali, we're told, and when I was put through recruitment into the intel community, you're put through polygraphs, you're put through a rigorous selection process. Why aren't these people weeded out? Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired, can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind?
Which is a great question. You heard the ranking. You heard the ranking in regard to trafficking child porn. This bill was just supposed to stop, like I said, this DoD devices being used for that. But why is there so many pedophiles? So much so that in 2018, the network was ranked 19th out of 2,900 for trafficking child porn. Those are the entities working on this program. Remember, DARPA, in the 60s, this is what they were doing. This is what they were doing in the 60s. So you know really who's doing these things to us, target individual. Remember, DARPA is DoD.
In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility.
1965. This is when it was recorded. They started, but even probably earlier than that.
DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day.
I wonder, Rick, what's happened? The human mind can be altered. I mean, it's obvious what's going on here. And like I said, there is a purpose for doing that. I want to finish up because one other thing they like to bring up, and I made a bunch of videos about it at this point, but I bring that up all the time. When I was a kid, I did something stupid to myself as a child. That's kids at that age can do. It's an impulsive action of a child. And I need to bring that picture up again. As I'm looking at a child here, they keep forcing me to get stimulations, which is apparently this is what they mapped it. They forced me to get sexual stimulation, which you're going to hear is something they can do. When I was around that age, some dumb thing I did as a kid that they tried to, it only happened once. It was an impulsive action of a child who just turned 14 years old. That never happened again. And that now you abuse. You heard what they do to babies? These kids? It's horrible. They torture, they're suffocating, restricting the air lungs, the lungs of a 7-year-old child. This is what they're involved in. We're talking about torturing children, like literally torturing them. But that's their job. They're trying to get you to accept this reality that they put together. While the reality they're really in is the involvement of torturing children. It's so nasty. And by the way, sexual stimulations commonly utilized to torment a target individual. This is the ability of this technology. This man has nothing to do with me. But listen to what he says, what this technology is capable of doing.
This technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal, or it can sort of turn off the...
It can manipulate the sexual arousals of a target individual. If they wanted to degrade your mind, if they wanted to break you down, they wanted to create this false personality to just break you down, how would they sexually arouse you? Like, what would they aim those sexual arousals to? What is something that disgusts you the most? If they play with your sexual arousal, they're not going to do that toward a woman, because as a man, or even as a woman, if you look at a man and you feel it's okay, even though it's falsified, they're going to aim it toward where it's going to torment you the most. What is it going to be? Children. And guess what they do? Oh, no, this is you when you're a kid. That's what you're making me experience. And they go as young as me, as 9-year-old, 8-year-old. Remember when you're 8? Remember when you... What? To say, no, we meditate. Disgusting trash. Well, you've been validated that they have these tactics of trying to break you down using this pedophile type of torture. And then they have these mind games of like, no, we're mapping, we're minded. And you have people, no, there's something there, right? There's not something. Remember when you were a kid, remember? It's trash. What? Yes, there's something there. What's the most consistent thing you heard? These snippets, what were they all saying? The snippet of pedophile type of torture, forced to get stimulation. This is not, I did not make these people say that. What would they say the pedophile type of torture? What does that mean? What does it mean when they say almost all target individuals are forced to see child porn in their mind? What does that mean? What does this woman saying, this transgender woman saying, they've taken over my mind and putting thoughts of pedophilia? What does it mean when they talk about, when this woman, Mara, talks about how they make her feel when she was petting a dog, and all of a sudden this feeling changed from dogs to young people and even children? At one point, she's even talking about how they play with sexual arousals. It's because they have these tactics that is pedophilia-centric and is consistently happening. And you just heard, altering the mind is going to be used as a cognitive war style tactic. Building, like personality building. How do you think this is supposed to push you to kill yourself? What's going to push you to do that? Delusional trash. To all my target individuals, stay strong.